All right, you want to get into this chapter of John Lewis? Carry on.
Yep.
Reflections for a New Generation.
Hmm.
This chapter is titled On Spirituality. If there's one thing that I've learned in all my years, it is that transformation begins within. If you want to change the world and bring about a more peaceful society, you have to start with yourself. There's a battle that rages within. When you're angry, you're quick to fight, place blame, complain, and criticize. If your inner life is in turmoil, how can you expect to radiate warmth and harmony in the world? How can you expect others to join you in your mission to heal the world? We all have to conquer the war within and understand that we are all children of God. Spirituality is the focus of the human spirit over the material world. It calls for you to focus on the intrinsic qualities within you and that which is good in the world. There's a divine spark in all of us that enables us to pause and observe our feelings so that we can act with more grace and dignity. We can be conscious participants in life instead of life happening to us. We can help move with a sense of purpose and mission. I've found that praying daily has helped me to focus on and strengthen my spirituality. It helps me remember the virtues and good qualities of others. I pray and give thanks for the people and things in my life. This brings love, happiness, and serenity into my heart. During the movement, we would drop to our knees and pray for the soul of our country. We prayed to awaken the divine spark of those who opposed us, so that they would realize we're all children of God. We prayed to awaken the spirit of bystanders, so that they too would realize that we are one family. We were in a struggle for preserving and strengthening the spirit of our country. It can be difficult to lead a spiritual life because there are so many distractions of the material world. Distractions like fame, success, and money prevent us from listening to the voice within. We have to detach from the things we most want and what we most fear. This is when we will achieve divine enlightenment regarding our purpose. It's a daily battle. It's an internal battle. It's a necessary struggle. That's the chapter.
I
Like I
didn't
s-
know that Congressman John Lewis was a pastor. Also, I wasn't expecting that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did he ever actually pastor?
No, I'm saying that from the words
Oh,
in the chapter.
yeah. At the beginning of the book, he writes about wanting to have always been a pastor
Hmm.
and just never ended up working out like that. So I think that was one of the many things that drew him to Dr. King, was that Dr. King was a reverend
Uh-huh.
and they connected on that. Do you know how John Lewis got in contact with Dr. King?
I feel like I know a piece of the story, but tell me the rest of it.
So I don't know the full details, but basically what happened was um, John Lewis was like 19 years old and trying to, find his place in the civil rights movement. And he did not have a lot of support from like his parents and whatnot to go and join the movement. So he wrote Dr. King, and then Dr. King actually wrote back and asked him to come out and meet with him. And so it was literally through an exchange of a letter that he was connected with Dr. King.
Wow. Words have a lot of power.
I know it's kind of wild to me because I was trying to like translate that into like modern,
Hmm.
context.
Hmm.
Like it feels to me as if you're just like tweeting at someone with like a verified badge and then
Hmm.
they like DM you and like, "Hey, come collab with me."
I literally had that experience, so
And yeah, and you have like no followers. What was that
yeah.
like?
What was that like?
Hmm.
Um, Kind of surreal in a sense, because I was like, you want to do what with me?
Hmm.
Why me? And it was, yeah, it was a really cool experience though. It's like you're working with somebody that you admire and you get to see like how their brain works
Hmm.
in person and like learn more about their personality. I do think though in today's day and age there's like this weird level of familiarity that we should not have with the people that we admire because of the internet.
Hmm.
Like especially in the age of the social media influencer, they're posting so much of their lives and that like makes their followers feel really close to them. So that you would think that when you meet in person, you're like, ah, there's this bond, this familiarity because I know everything about your life.
Yeah.
And then you realize they know nothing about your life. So it's like, a one-way mirror.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think we could talk about that more, and I kind of want to revisit it. But before we do, tell me your thoughts on the chapter. Is
Um,
John Lewis's reflections on spirituality.
Real talk, I feel like I needed a physical copy so that I could follow along
Mm,
because there was something that stood out to me, but I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was just the idea that like prayer can highlight the good in you and the good in others. And I was like, I felt really convicted by that because I was like, dang, I really don't spend any time praying. Like, I need to step my game up. And thinking
yeah.
of like how it just can be so good for like mindset setting, mindset shifting on a day to day basis to just take that time to sit and reflect. And, I've been trying to build more intentional time at the beginning of my day each day. So that makes me think about how can I use that time even more so to like really set intentions for the day ahead besides just like writing out my to-do list, but how can I take that time to really invest in my spirituality?
One of the things he says about prayer, he says, I found that praying daily has helped me to focus on and strengthen my spirituality. It helps me remember the virtues and good qualities of others. I pray and give thanks for the people and things in my life that brings love, happiness, and serenity into my heart. And so he like kind of like talks about it introspectively, talking about how it benefits him. And then he talks about how prayer during the civil rights movement was used as a way to draw others in that would otherwise be in opposition.
Hmm.
And I thought that was interesting because you're like taking the same text and like two people are applying it in very different ways. Like I would say that a majority of the people on both sides of the civil rights movement
They
would describe
identified
themselves
as
as
Christian.
Christian.
Yeah.
And so like how would you then how would you think about seeing someone of the complete opposite view praying, to the same God that you pray to?
I would have a
And
lot of questions. I'd be like, what? Really? You're praying? That's interesting because the God that I know doesn't condone. I'm assuming that I would be on the nonviolent side, but yeah, like the God that I know doesn't condone this action that I'm seeing you taking. I don't know if it would soften my heart towards them or if it would just make me more confused about why they're acting in whatever way towards me.
yeah, and like this is not an isolated incident too. Like the whole point of this book, which I think it was so timely of him to write, like he's writing this during the BLM movement. And obviously he has since passed. And he's kind of like handing the baton in a way. That's what this
Hmm.
book is. And people still use Christian speech and Christian rhetoric to,
Justify
advance
really
and
hateful actions.
justify hateful actions. Like obviously we saw like the abortion laws in Texas and
Don't say gay, which just passed in Florida.
don't say gay. That was another big one. So I think it's interesting how some things haven't changed in that respect. I think religion will always be, you know, I don't want to call it a weapon, but a
I,
means to further
yeah,
a cause.
I wouldn't call it a weapon, but I think people weaponize religion all the time. Like they turn it into something it's not. It's not a weapon, but they try to use it in that way and
Hmm.
try to use it to harm
Yeah,
and
maybe.
push people away rather than pull people in. And I think that that's why it has such a bad reputation. Like, I've noticed people get really uncomfortable when I talk about church or when I talk about God, or I'm like, oh, like I saw this sermon. This message really reminded me of you. It made me think of you. I'm sending it to you, whatever clip.
Hmm.
And then people get like on defense when I'm like, I just thought maybe you'd like to hear this. I don't know.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah. Or like, they don't actually respond,
Oh
you
yeah, I
know?
think
Like they'll
silence more than often can
yeah,
be the response to like spiritual talk if you're not spiritual yourself.
or like if it's over text message, like it to acknowledge that they saw it, but like not engage beyond that.
Yeah, I found a lot of people, maybe even like most people in my experiences, even if they aren't spiritual in any way, they have like a deep respect for those that are. And like I've prayed with people who don't pray, or read the Bible with people that don't read the Bible, and they're like open to having dialogue. So I think I think there is more room for commonality than we might think. I think we like assume a lot of things about people, but we don't ever like give them the chance to, you know, speak their piece on a thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But with that, I think we can wrap up our discussion on John Lewis's chapter on spirituality. Any other closing thoughts?
Nope.
Nope. Well, did you enjoy this conversation?
I thought it was interesting.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do another one, there's plenty more chapters in this book. The next chapter that he writes on is called On Faith.
Yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll be open. I don't know. Check my calendar, find an open spot, and
Check your vibe, check your temperature, check your mood,
yeah,
check your
all of those
energy,
things.
check your consciousness, because sometimes you're not awake.
That's true too. I do sleep from time to time.
All right. Thanks for joining me.